Now, my brothers and sisters, I take you to a very interesting question, a very thought-provoking. The question goes like this: is going for retreats and pilgrimages important for a Catholic? The question B: what is the difference between the two? That means the retreat and the pilgrimage. And C: how often should we go for retreats and pilgrimages? It's a beautiful question, I say, because it's very thought-provoking. There are two things that are spoken here. One is a retreat and one is a pilgrimage. First of all, what is a retreat and what's a pilgrimage? And the question also says, is it good for us to go? It's important for a Catholic to go for a retreat or pilgrimage. Surely yes. The answer is a resounding yes. We should go for retreats, we should go for pilgrimages. What's the difference between these two? First of all, a retreat is a recollection that a person does in the presence of God, in a place that is isolated, so that he can spend some time, some of his thoughts, some of his imaginations, some of his perhaps experiences in a lonely place. We see that Jesus himself went to a lonely place. You know, the word lonely place for Jesus technically was a place of recollection or retreat. In Mark chapter 6 verse 31, Jesus tells the disciples, come away by yourselves to a lonely place and rest a while. It's a retreat, sort of a retreat. Jesus is telling the disciples because he sees them so much distracted. They want to look important. They want to stand close to Jesus. They want to be noticed by everybody. And just as people pay homage to Jesus, perhaps they also expected to be paid homage. And so in this, Jesus knows that they need to go a little aside and pray. In Mark 15:21 to 28, the Canaanite woman who asks for mercy for her daughter, we see that Jesus also comes from a place that is a lonely place, a lonely place. In Matthew 6:13 to 18, Jesus also takes the disciples toward the rocky side of Jordan and a place called Caesarea Philippi. The town is called Caesarea Philippi. And there, you know, the beautiful part of Jesus' life, where he confronts his disciples and asks him, what do people say I am? And you know, they give so many answers. Some say you are John the Baptist, some say you are Elijah, some Elisha, and so many other prophets. But Jesus asked them the end of the retreat question. You know, every retreat ends with a deep experience for us. And the end of the retreat question is, who do you say I am? Who do you say I am? That is more important. It's not important that people call you so many things. People have so many good things to say or bad things to say about you. But ultimately, standing in front of God, who do you say I am? Who do you say God is in your life? So this is a retreat is going to a lonely place, going to a place where nobody distracts you or disturbs you. Perhaps you have someone to guide you, a preacher, or someone perhaps who leads you through his words, through the scriptures, to a certain path, to certain recollection. And what are the things that are useful in the retreat, or what do we do it? First of all, it's a rest for body and soul and mind. You know, people are busy. And you see in Bangalore, it's a hectic, or a life that is just running, hectic life, there's no time. And so for such people, it's a rest for soul, it's a rest for mind, and a rest for body also. Secondly, it's a time to recollect and evaluate. How did the last year go? Perhaps how did the last 6 months go in my life? What I have done? Where did I slip? Why I should have done that? Or I should not have done that. What is the step? Perhaps to evaluate something about our life, which is not possible in every what we call the humdrum day of ours, where we are running and rushing and pushing. And thirdly, we search for God or answer from God. You know, many people are disillusioned. They have made money. They have made wealth. They have got anything and everything, but still they are not happy. So therefore, retreat perhaps will tell you where you are running, you are rushing. You need to stop a little. And therefore, you are in search of something. Perhaps first of all, you are in search of God Himself. Because God is very hazy for you. A God, one who gives you, who satisfies you, is your God. But when you fail, whom do you blame? Many of the people blame God Himself. I have been praying, but God has not given me. God has not given me money. God has not given me success. Perhaps searching for God or something from God. Something from God. This something could be something that fulfills your life. Perhaps even a change of job, a change of place. Perhaps a partner in your life if you are not married. Or perhaps a state of life, you want to become a priest or religious. Perhaps you want to give yourself for the sake of the poor. So this is a time of search. And lastly, I also say that it's pray for God's grace and support. It's not that all the people who go for retreat are in big crisis. There are people who are happy. And so asking God to support, asking God to help you. I am going for this, perhaps this expedition. I am taking up this work. Or perhaps I am choosing a life's partner. Or perhaps I am wanting to be a priest or religious or something in my life. Lord, I ask for support. I am very happy. I am very happy, but then I need you. I need your support. This is the retreat and the content of the retreat that we go. What's a pilgrimage? What's a pilgrimage? A pilgrimage, I could say that a retreat could be made in a pilgrimage place also. You could go to a place of pilgrimage and there make your retreat. And it would be a very nice retreat because pilgrimages are also places of holiness, of saints, of Our Lady, of some importance where people have gone and found peace. But pilgrimage itself is meaning to say it's a walking or going to a place. You can't make pilgrimage at home. Perhaps you could retreat. You could make a retreat in your place which is closer to you from your home, not many kilometers, you could go and make. But pilgrimage is also always going to another place, perhaps a walking pilgrimage or traveling pilgrimage. Or perhaps sometimes some go to abroad, Holy Land, Rome. It's a long pilgrimage by flight. So pilgrimage is another place. But once again, your heart and mind is attuned that you are going to a place, that you are going to a special place. We find also Jesus also went for pilgrimage. When he was 12 years old, his parents, Joseph and Mary, took him on a pilgrimage to the temple. Actually, for the Jews, every feast, the people had to make a pilgrimage. And the Feast of the Tents, they call it, the Feast of the Passover. And so for these times, the people had to make a pilgrimage. And for the Jews and for the Orientals, it is in their life. Perhaps they go once a year, maybe once in some 2-3 years, or maybe once in a lifetime, but they do make a pilgrimage. And so pilgrimage is also advantageous because we go to another place, we leave aside our life here, we go there. And in the pilgrimage, on the pilgrimage, all things are not arranged. Perhaps you have to work, you have to walk, you go by a bus and it breaks down, or perhaps you go somewhere and the flight reaches late. There are many things that happen, but all this is part of the pilgrimage. Secondly, the pilgrimage is not done alone. It's done in a group. It's done with a family. It's done with a community of people that are close to you, that are known to you. Of course, not necessarily. You could even make a pilgrimage alone. There's nothing, no one forbids you. But pilgrimage is always in a group. It's a pilgrim people that are working and walking together. And in this pilgrimage, there are young, there are old, there are someone, perhaps you have to push their wheelchair, there are some who walk fast, there are some who go low. And these are all family experiences, a community experience of people sharing together. The pilgrimage also builds up a community, brings the people together. Perhaps when you go for a pilgrimage, the parish priest announces a pilgrimage. People are not knowing each other. Someone comes from that area, someone comes from there, someone comes from another place. But when they are going, they become friends. They start sharing their stories. They perhaps, as I said, they tell the story of Jesus in their life as to why they are going for this pilgrimage. There is also in the pilgrimage appreciation of God, God's grace, even perhaps an intervention in your life, or intervention we seek of the saint of that particular place that we go, and that's one. Pilgrimages are also made to make a great decision in one's life. There are many saintly persons who cannot decide what is required of me. Even in the retreat, perhaps things become a little clear, but when they go on a pilgrimage, they say things become more clear. That God speaks to them and says, this is the place that I would like to convey my decision or perhaps my experience to you in a very special way. When you go to Rome, when you go to Italy, there's a place called Loreto, south of Italy. And there is that Basilica of Mother Mary, according to the tradition, the Church of Annunciation of the Holy Land was lifted by the Crusaders and brought, and the Church of Loreto was made. And so there are many people who go there because ultimately, Mary in the Annunciation answered to God, your will be done. Your will be done. I am the handmaid of the Lord. Be done to me according to your will. So there are many saints and big people who go there in order to seek what is God's will in their life. Because I see so many things. I'm pulled from so many sides. What should I do? Should I take this decision? Should I not do this? And therefore to seek God's will. As you come out of that basilica, there are 2-3 slabs of this marble where the names of the people who visited there are written. To go to see from the 15th, 16th century onwards, there are almost, I think, 200 or 300 saints who have visited there in order to know the will of God, in order to know that what's God. St. Ignatius of Loyola, St. Francis of Assisi, St. Francis de Sales, so many saints. And I saw that a little below, one of the last names is of Pope John the 23rd. Now is the saint, St. John the 23rd. St. John the 23rd was in a big crisis because the church was in confusion. Whether I should start this, what we call the council. The council, is it foolish on my part to announce a council or to do it or not? The Pope was already 83-year-old, an old man, what big things he could do. But then he goes to that place and there he decides that the council has to be convened, and that's the history for us that the Second Vatican Council took place. And so the pilgrimage helps us very much. I was recently very happy to hear that the parish of St. Michael's of Shantinagar, the parish priest along with about 40-50 pilgrims went to Saint Devasagayam's place in Kottar, Nagarkoil for 3-4 days, and the people were together, and he was explaining to me how the people were very much impressed and there was a sense of bonding, a unity among them. I encourage our parishes, our religious to go on pilgrimages. Perhaps take some people with you. It will be a great experience for you and a sort of a landmark in the life of the people also to do something for God and for the church. I wish you well. May this week be a very happy one for you.